Hi, good afternoon. My name's Muttiah from Career Interactive. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm going to be talking today about the changes that are happening with Tier 2. I have spoken to a lot of clients, a lot of employers. I also went to a government consultation on Monday, which was with MAC, the Migration Advisory Committee, to speak about the changes that are happening to Tier 2. What I found is the students and the clients that I've spoken to don't really understand what's going on. It's not been made very transparent. I'm sure that there are some of you watching today who have probably had your certificates of sponsorship applications rejected, and maybe you don't know what's going on. These are very uncertain times, so I'm hoping through this report I'm really going to be able to explain to you very clearly about what's going on, about the other changes that are going to be happening to Tier 2, what's going to hopefully happen to your applications in the July season, and where do we go from here, and also how you can make a difference, because I have to make something very clear from the beginning. Many people are not aware about what international students' opinion is about the UK government, about the visa system, and about the changes that are currently taking place. I cannot stress this enough. No one will hear you if you do not speak out. No one will hear you if you do not send emails, send messages through. You can send that through to us here at CIUK, hr@careerinteractive.org, or you can actually send that through directly to MAC, the Migratory Advisory Committee. I'll give you that email address a little bit later on. But to be frankly honest, there's no point moaning amongst yourselves if you're not willing to speak out, because if you don't speak out, nothing will change. Things will change, but they will change in a bad way rather than a good way. So, without further ado, I'm going to move on to the slideshow. So, bear with me. This is going to take about 20 to 30 minutes. I'm actually just going to go through the slides and try and explain that to you all. So, if you can limit your questions around Tier 2 and the changes that are happening, I'll try to answer any questions that you may have, but of course if you have very specific immigration questions, I must stress this, we are not immigration lawyers, so we are just providing advice. We cannot provide legal advice through this webinar, okay? So, some of you may be aware, once the Conservatives came into the government, the environment for international students has become decidedly more hostile. It's even more hostile than it has been. Now, I have to clarify this point very clearly. It is very confusing for ourselves, for the companies that I met on Monday, there were a lot of blue chip companies there, very large FTSE 100 companies from a variety of industries, who are incredibly frustrated about the situation and the stance that the government is taking. They feel as if it is completely divisive. They know that international students are really valuable to the UK's economy, and they want you to stay and they want to hire you. So I have to stress that this is not a problem with companies. This is a problem with the Home Office, with UK visas and immigration, and with the Conservative government itself. So I'm going to talk about lots of different things today. We went along to the government consultation, which was on Monday in Charing Cross. That was organised by PwC, where we got to meet the chairman of MAC, the Migratory Advisory Committee, Sir David Metcalfe. I also spoke to the Deputy Director of CBI and a number of other individuals, many different people from large institutions, and also people from PwC's legal team. For those of you who don't know, PwC actually handle the biggest percentage of FTSE 100 company immigration. So PwC will actually probably be handling your case. If not, it's most likely going to be Deloitte. There are also other specialist law firms like DKLM and so on and so forth. But PwC is the biggest. So we're going to look at the current issues, how these affect you, what are the differences, and what you can do next and how to make a difference. So, first of all, Tier 2 restricted certificate of sponsorship. So these are for applications out of the country for wages below 155,300, or a tier 4 dependent switch. So that is basically your spouse. That doesn't necessarily have to be a husband or wife, it can be a long-term partner. This is restricted to 20,700 applications per year, but there is a hierarchy to who receives a tier 2 general RCos first. So for those of you who don't know, certificates of sponsorship are unrestricted. So for example, if you are an international student who has, number one, already gained your a bachelor's certificate within this country or a master's, then you do not need to apply for a restricted certificate of sponsorship. This is only if you are applying outside of the country, okay? So otherwise, you need to wait, basically. So for those of you who are going to be graduating, whether that be in June or July, I know for some of you within your masters that's going to be in December, though depending on your particular course that you're taking, it may be different. So if you can apply within this country, please do so. I've already given that advice to a number of clients of ours. So what is the hierarchy? First of all, it's Croatians. Although unrestricted, any certificate of sponsorship allocations are taken from the monthly total. Next is special groups. That's sole, shortage occupation list and certain PhD roles. The next is done on a points-based system. I'm going to talk about the points system. So these are points based on earnings, not points as a total. So points 30 to 20, salaries between 46 and 155,299. 15, salaries between 45,999 and 32. And points 10 to 2, which is salaries between 20,800, 31,999. If any of you are graduates, I suspect that most of you will be on the 10 to 2 scale. Very few graduates will be on the 10 to 11 to 15 scale in our experience. The only time when we would come across that would be for area management roles, investment banking roles, front office, and also law training contracts as well. It really doesn't matter actually, because you would have failed if you got below 50 points this month, which was absolutely tragic as far as I'm concerned. So how do I work out my points? I'm sure many of you will already know this through having gone through the process. You instantly get 30 through meeting the requirements of the residential labour market test, and then the additional is points. So basically you failed this month if you earned below £46,000. It was 50 and above. So that was 394 people failed to get their visa. So what happened in June? So I'm going to break these numbers down for you. So numbers of CoSs, RCos is 1650. CoSs carried over, this is 8. So this month is going to be 342. Certificates returned. Number of certificates granted by exceptional consideration, this is 11. This is something that I'm also going to discuss later. It's very rare for the Home Office to do this. Total number of CoSs assigned to Croatians, that's 45. So then what do we have left? We have 1609. Minimum point score is 50. As many of you will know, previously this has been 32. So basically, as long as you earned 20,800 and above, you should have got a visa, but now it's 46,000 and above. So that was the number granted in June, 1215, new hires, 1214, one dependent, balance carried over, 394. So number of certificates of sponsorship available is 2,049. Now, actually, there has been a significant amount of confusion about this. So if you look at the figures very closely, even though I've mentioned 394, the number is probably higher. What's actually happened is that the number below 50 points, so actually the number of people earning below £46,000 is massive. It's the majority of these types of visas. And what this has meant is that what the Home Office does is that they say that they cannot differentiate between one, say, So say you had a visa application for somebody who wants to go to Boeing in Birmingham, who's getting paid £32,000, and someone who wants to go to PwC in Liverpool who's getting paid £24,000. It's below 50 points, it doesn't matter, it's all the same, you all get rejected. So actually 394 is what's being carried over, because the number that we're starting off with is 1650. So what does this mean for those of you who are watching, or those of you who are waiting to apply or have applied? So just as I've stated all of there, 394 rolled over. When will a decision be made? So for those of you who, I spoke to a client yesterday who talked about her visa being expedited. So she thought that she would get a decision before the 11th. No one will get a decision before the 11th. Actually, that's going to be on the 13th of Monday. It's likely that your decision will be later. For example, we knew on the 13th that a significant number of RCos had been rejected, but we know clients didn't find out until about 7 to 9 days later, because of course it has to filter through the levels of hierarchy. That then goes back to the companies pass it on to HR and immigration. HR and immigration then contacts you and let you know that that's the case. So we predict that you won't know until sort of like the 13th till the 20th, that week basically. So what now? So there's a variety of proposals being kind of juggled about. The Home Office rarely grants special exceptions. Some of the 394 will have been contacted to apply for a normal, so I use 394 as a theoretical because we don't actually know. The Home Office will not specify in terms of how much the number was exceeded by. That's not released into the public domain. And of course, individual companies aren't necessarily getting together to say exactly how many were rejected. So we know of at least 394 cases. That's very important. People, I've read a lot of information saying it's 394, it's X, it's Y. We don't actually know. We know that it has to be a minimum of that number, but it could well be significantly more. So some people will defer to August when they get their bachelor certificate. Whether they get accepted depends on the amount of applications UK Visas and Immigration receives this month, because what you have to remember is this is the first time this has happened for 4 years. This is going to relate to another chart that I'm going to speak about, and you're going to see that there is going to be a significant difference. So just checking. Sorry, I've just seen a question. Ernest, have we got sound? Sound's fine. Yeah, so sorry, Dari, it must be on your end actually, because I know that the sound's okay over here. So what does that mean? What does that mean now? What's currently happening is that PwC and a number of large institutions have lobbied the UK Home Office directly and UK Visas and Immigration. We know that PwC had a meeting with them last week. They seem fairly cagey about what's happening because the Home Office, the reason being, I'm sure there's some of you at home, I myself thought the same thing, who would say, why don't they just give a special exception? It's never happened in 4 years. Why don't they just give us an exemption and push everybody's tier 2s through together? That would make sense. However, from a legal standpoint, that sets a precedent. So what it means is once you've done it once, it makes it very hard to not do that again. What I suspect is the current political climate means that will not happen. So what you have to remember is those students who chose to apply outside of the UK are now coming back to the UK to apply within the UK. So the number of people will come down. A number of people will also be getting their bachelor certificate this month. So they will then also be able to apply. So the people who it's really going to affect are those of you who are master's students who have not got your certificate. You're doing your dissertation now, and that's going to happen in December. So what about the Tier General Restricted Certificate of Sponsorship cap? So looking through this, as you can see, so we've got January carried over 735. February, a bit of a funny month, -17. March is when we reset. So every year what happens is you roll over, and eventually you reset. March we saw a flat line. April 640 carried over. May nothing carried over, because what is happening is that all of the graduate applications are going through. We can see that in May, only 8 are getting carried over. We're basically right up to the limit. June we exceeded the limit. So though it appears that granted was less than, we now clearly know that this was exceeded by at least 394 candidates. The Home Office then concluded that they could not differentiate and they could not give special treatment to anybody, so they rejected everyone. It could be 394, it could be 500, it could be 600. We are unsure, and there is no public record of that number. The Home Office did not have to release that. So this is a question that I've answered quite a few times this month. Could my offer be pulled? Unfortunately, the short answer is yes. There is a clause within all of your contracts to state that an offer is given pending your visa application being accepted. However, what I have to say is, again, I spoke to a lot of global HR managers on Monday from FTSE 100 companies. That is not the rhetoric that we're hearing. They're not talking about pulling offers. They want people to start in September. What they are saying is that the system is set. So essentially, if you can't start in September, you may need to be rolled over. So for PwC, you could be rolled over from September to April. For some companies, it might be a year. What I would say is, it's too early to tell, because you still have July and you still have August if you want to start for September. So this is very important. So what I'm basically saying is, yes, theoretically it is possible. That doesn't appear to be the case. I did not speak to one global HR representative on Monday who even mentioned that. That was just a hypothetical question that I went through with a member of PwC's legal team, who said that yes, of course, that is a possibility. So I want to talk to you now about the MAC Tier 2 review. Now, I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this. This is something that you should know about. Tier 2 is changing. Again, I'm going to explain the background behind this. So who is MAC? MAC is the Migration Advisory Committee. They have previously provided policy reviews about Tier 1 and Tier 2. So for any of you who wanted to get in for a Tier 1 visa, they've changed the requirements. Just so you know, MAC were not responsible for abolishing the post-study work visa. MAC actually are on your side. They think international students are very important. But unfortunately, they advise, but the government decides. They have no jurisdictional power, but they are experts within their field. Some of you may even be familiar with Sir David Metcalfe. He's actually an emeritus professor of economics at London School of Economics. So why are they reviewing Tier 2? I'm going to explain this quite simply through 3 charts. Because net migration is going up. As you can see, emigration's flatlined about 325. Immigration, after going down to about 500, is now sneaking up to 700,000. This number is now, so it means net migration is at about 318,000 now. So again, this is another chart. Actually, migrants gaining visa entry to study is lower now than its peak in 2009. There is something that we know as a company. Less of you want to study in the UK. This is something that we actually brought up on Monday, and we will continue to bring up. The next meeting of a variety of people within immigration is going to be on the 23rd. It's going to be a breakfast meeting, which we're going to be attending at PwC's offices. And we are going to be presenting these statistics and saying, look, the UK is losing significant amounts of money. Particularly, we have seen, not so much from China, but from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, a lot less students want to come here. They prefer now to go to the US or to Europe. Also, this chart kind of says it all. really it's actually got nothing to do with you. It's mostly to do with EU immigration. The problem being is that what is happening is David Cameron has placed himself between a rock and a hard place. So what that means is he cannot stop the freedom of movement through the EU, which we're seeing is exploding, basically. As you can see, the numbers for non-EU immigration is pretty much static. It dipped slightly about 2012. It's coming back, but it's fairly flat, to be honest. It's EU numbers which are going up. This is all to do with freedom of movement. It's not on the table to get changed. So basically, someone's got to pay, and unfortunately it's non-EU. It's not right, but that is the position that the Conservative government have put themselves in. So the Conservatives, 2010, DC, pledged to push migration below 100,000. A completely ridiculous figure. It's just made up. I have to say to you, I've gone through the numbers, and it is literally impossible to have net migration below 100,000. It's just not possible. We'd have to leave the EU and basically let almost nobody in, and we'd get those kind of numbers. Currently it stands at 318,000. International students make up 50% of total numbers of migration. You're about half the numbers. So you're very significant in terms of what we're talking about. The whole argument about changing you from migrants to visitors has been tabled over and over again. In fact, that is recognised by 6 House of Commons select committees, the Migratory Advisory Committee, a number of professional boards, a number of big businesses. PwC actually came out very publicly with British Future in their report in June and said that this should change, but the government refuses. So what can you do? So what is MAC reviewing? So number one, it's two things basically. First thing is tier 2 salary thresholds, which the guidance is released on the 21st. We will be submitting evidence for that tomorrow. And then there's a wider review of tier 2 by mid-December. So one thing I have to stress, unfortunately, Sir David Metcalfe spoke about this on Monday. They have been commissioned to actively look at ways to reduce the 20,700 tier 2 general cap. That's not including intra-company transfer. That's a different kettle of fish. So what does that mean? The rhetoric is negative. It's not positive. So what does that mean by changing salary thresholds? Essentially, this is a done deal. So we've already spoken to a number of people about this who are in the know. They say that this is going to happen. New entrants, you guys, the salaries will rise from the 10th to the 25th percentile. What do we mean by percentiles? You line up 100 people, we take the salary of number 25 and we make that our guiding average. For experienced workers, it's tabled to rise from 25th to the 50th or 75th. However, on Monday, this was spoken about, and Sir David Metcalfe actually clearly said that he doesn't anticipate the rise will be this much. Now, I've already seen about this 35,000 after 6 years. For those of you wanting to go into professional services, finance, engineering and law, it's not such a big deal, to be frankly honest. It's not really anything for you to worry about. But to have to make this jump, so basically what it means is once your 3-year training contract ends, your wages would have to have gone up by £50,000, which is obscene and just doesn't happen, actually. So, in short, increasing Tier 2 General 20,800, Tier 2 intercompany transfer, you don't need to know about that. That's transferring in between companies. Say, if you worked in Fujitsu in Japan and you came to Fujitsu in the UK. So working examples, what does that mean? Civil engineers starting salary will go from 21 to 28.7, IT 20.5 to 27, solicitors 20.5 to 28, chartered accountants 20.5 24.6, business professionals 20.5 to 27.8. I'm just providing those as examples. You can actually freely access all this information. It's in this particular document, which is called the Call for Evidence. Minimum salary thresholds for Tier 2 Migrant Advisory Committee, June 2015. You can download it for free on the .gov.uk website. On the back, it's actually got all of the proposals for changing the wages. So this is something, someone said this to me the other day, and I thought, yeah, so great, I get more money, right? Not really. First of all, a very big sticking point around this is wage discrimination. It will be discriminatory for you to earn more than a native person because it's discriminating based on race. So this is a very kind of prickly subject. Also, if companies have to pay more money for you, they're more likely to go elsewhere, basically, or take school leavers like Grant Thornton has been doing for a year now, as it already costs companies 3 times more in admin to hire an international student. And that is just another story about streamlining the whole Tier 2 process. So what's the wider review about? This for me is quite interesting. It's also known as the Big MAC. Whether dependents of Tier 2s will be allowed to enter and work in the UK. This is quite worrying, really. To put this very simply, would you go to another country if you couldn't take your partner or your spouse with you? I think the majority of people would probably say no. Tighten Tier 2 intra-company transfer provisions. This is very... I want to talk to you about this very briefly. I'm going to tell you a story. I spoke to the global HR manager of a FTSE 100 technology company, and she was telling me about how her company actually services the UK Home Office and also UK Visas and Immigration. They actually service their cloud software and their messaging software. The engineers who service this software have to come from an Asian country which will remain nameless on a Tier 2 intra-company transfer to come and service said technology software of the Home Office. If these provisions were tightened, then the Home Office would not be able to speak to each other. This really sums up for me the madness of these proposals. They make absolutely no sense, and the Home Office actually has a lot of out of the UK experience working in government. The next thing is applying an immigration health surcharge. So you guys already pay $150 a year for the NHS. I don't think that's a big deal. That's going to happen. Also charging big businesses a skills levy. Big businesses not particularly happy about that because they think it's hard enough to find professionals. Why do I have to also pay the government for finding them? So bad news. It certainly isn't positive. So the reaction of many FTSE 100 companies we spoke to is anger. They are absolutely livid. They were quite restrained on Monday when actually their legal representatives were there amongst PwC. But generally, the general mood is that this is the government is trying to punish the wrong people. International students contribute an enormous. You contribute £17 billion a year to the UK economy. That's not including the taxes that you will pay as international students when you go and get a top job. And you will generally, for the most part, be paying high rates of tax, 40 to 45%. So why you're being penalised is just absolute insanity as far as we're concerned. Unfortunately, immigration is a hot topic. People don't even think of international students as immigrants. So again, work that out for yourselves. We suspect that these changes are inevitable. It's just the impact and scope that is negotiable. So just quickly before, so if anybody has any questions, please feel free to write them in. I'm just going to talk about some other bits and pieces now, and then I'll try and answer as many questions as I can get round to. So, how can you help? Speak out. This is a really big thing. I cannot stress this enough. So, you know, all of you here You must let other people know. You must speak out. You must make your voice heard. You must show your displeasure. You must not go along with the status quo. So tell us your thoughts by sending an email to hr@careerinteractive.org entitled Tier 2 about how this will affect you, your friends and family. No one will listen if you do not speak. Okay, so please, we're going to be submitting evidence tomorrow to MAC. We're going to also be presenting evidence later on to some large employers and other members of UK Visa and Immigration later on this month. If you want to be heard, this is your best chance of doing it. So please say something. It's so important. Of course, for those of you who are used to coming along and seeing us, I couldn't get away. Who are we? We are CIUK Career Interactive. We are the UK's #1 career coaching and consulting provider for international students. We've spoken to 35,000 students over 6 years. We've placed an average of 2 clients a week in top jobs to companies like PwC, Deloitte, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Times Top 100 companies. We are the only company to have an offer guarantee program. So if you want to find more about us or our services, please send an email of your CV to hr@careerinteractive.org. The title, yes please. If you want your voice to be heard, please email voice to hr@careerinteractive.org with your questions, thoughts, feelings, and fill in our survey. Please feel free to follow that link. That survey has already been presented to senior immigration partners at PwC. So it's not a deaf survey. It is going to be presented to people. CIUK, we are here to help international students be heard. So just going to try and answer your question. So Ty, did the President say the school leaver would not be affected? It's not actually relevant for a school leaver, I think you'll find. If you're, say for example, you're 18 and you're wanting to study your A-levels, then you would apply for a Tier 4 educational visa, which will give you the allowance to work. That's how many of the companies do it. So you might spend 4 days at uni, 1 day working, or maybe 1 day working, 4 days at uni. These are special dispensation Tier 4. So if you're a school leaver, then no, it doesn't affect you at all. Nikhil, if I understood correctly, the 394 plus were a total of 45 points and below, or just 45 points. Nikhil, 50 points and below, actually, not 45. Sunil, when do you think proposed Tier 2 change as part of a wider review will be introduced? Yeah, great question. The Tier 2 salary changes are predicted to come into effect in October. That's theoretically. That's actually when it will, I've made a mistake there. Not come into effect, they'll be announced in October to come into effect in 1 year's time. The changes in December, we don't know. We don't know what's happening. The call for evidence hasn't even come out yet, so we'll scrutinise those documents when we find them. So, if the salary graduates usually get 2 to 10 points, how can we get other points? You can't, unfortunately. This is the thing. I've had a couple of people talk to me about, what about adding bonuses or adding benefits, stuff like that. It's down to the individual companies themselves. Generally, your wage is a standard, it's set. It might be specific to London or to Glasgow, Manchester, Birmingham, So in London, you might expect to earn quite a bit over the threshold, 20,800. Whereas if you're in Liverpool, you might earn very close to it, say about £22,000. So unfortunately, there isn't another way, but the company will provide advice on individual cases. So really, when will the salary thresholds change? They said autumn. What's that? September earlier. So as I said, really, I don't feel these changes won't. I'd be surprised if they happen this year. Somebody has said to me October. It depends whether the government, if the government want to push something through quickly, then they will. But I feel as if actually the changes will be more to, I don't feel it will affect graduates too much. I think this is more going to affect the intra-company transfer. We will know more when MAC releases its initial findings on June the 24th. So I can only speculate, but I have no concrete evidence to give you a conclusion. So, Tia, I'm a master's student. My official finish date is September. I start work on the 7th. Can I go travel for a month in September and be allowed to re-enter the UK and apply for a Tier 2 visa? Yeah, so I would apply now for a visa, as in right now. If you haven't already applied, I don't really understand. So, right, okay. Sorry, I understand what you're saying now. So I would imagine what you're trying to say is that you've done your bachelor's in another country and now you've done your master's here and you're waiting for that. I would seek advice from the immigration team of the company that you are joining. As I said, we're not immigration specialists, so seek advice. Yes, the point system is only salary based, basically. I know that they talk about 10 points for English, 10 points for having a certificate from a British institution. That actually everybody's pretty much the same now, so they don't even count that within the point system. Funnily enough, when you go to the Home Office points calculator website, they will include it, and it does appear that everybody has 52 points because you have 10 points for. So you have 10 points for English, 10 points for education, 30 points for residential labour market test, and then 2 points for salary above 20,800. But that's not true. So that's a question more for the Home Office rather than for us. So Thai, how the bachelor would be affected to apply? Yes, if you're a bachelor's, apply in the UK. If you apply in the UK, all of this does not concern you because you're not applying for a restricted certificate of sponsorship. You're just applying for an unrestricted certificate of sponsorship. The number of applications from within the UK is unrestricted. Okay? Bon Jovi, can I get one job and apply for these individually? Or must he get sponsored from the company? No, you do have to get sponsored because it is a Tier 2 sponsor. They sponsor you into the job, so you can't apply for yourself. You must join a Tier 2 sponsor listed company, which you can find on a Tier 2 and 5 sponsorship list, and then they will sponsor you. They shouldn't ask you for any money either. That should be included in their cost. So Aditya carried over or total below or just so. So yeah, as I said, it's not 45 points at all. It's 50 points. Anybody who is earning below £46,000 did not get a CoS that I've heard of. There might be the odd one or two, but I don't think there is. I've not heard of anybody. I'll be interested in finding out, actually. But no, it's below 50 points, below £46,000 in wages. Darry, can you share this recording? What we will do is that I will speak to IT and I'll ask if this video can be left public after this recording is over. So then what you can do is you can share the link. So you can share the link and allow other people to watch it. Next question. Contract salary is based on 37.5. Is it scaled to 39-hour working weeks when calculating our cost? Yeah, good question. This actually came up. The answer is, I believe it's counted as, because you have a base salary and also you have additional, but I believe it's based on a 37.5. It depends on the profession. It's a very good question. It's very, I think that's more a question for an immigration lawyer. I know in some cases it's yes, and in other cases no. What you have to understand is every profession is different. So they don't have a universal formula for all professions because everybody is given under a SOC code. Everyone's given a SOC code and then the hours and the payment, So That's a difficult question to answer rather. If I have a master's, I'm applying from the UK, the annual does not affect me. Yes, absolutely, it doesn't affect you at all. RIDI, what are the criteria for RCos to be able to get considered under exceptional circumstances outside of the monthly quota? RIDI, the short answer is I don't know. I would suspect these are individuals who are earning a very high amount of money and who have been, so they're going to be right around the 120s, 130s, 140s, 150k a year. And the company that they want to work for needs them straight away, i.e. it's an emergency. So I don't think you will be able to apply for exceptional circumstances. That's done on a case by case. As I said, it's less than 20 a month. So unfortunately, I don't think it's going to cover you. So if I'm laid off by the company, will my tier 2 immediately expire? Let's say 2 to 3 months. Right? No, it depends actually. It depends on the reason why. So either you resign or you're fired or the company goes into administration. Off the top of my head, it's 30 days. But again, you'd have to refer for specifics. For a non-constricted Tier 2 visa, do you think would the wife, husband of an applicant be affected to not allowed to be awarded visa? Ty, that's a great question. That's currently what's under debate. As I said to you, the evidence has not been submitted yet. So the call for evidence hasn't even started. So that's part of the big MAC consultation, which will happen in mid-December. So we don't know. Currently, actually, what they're looking at is it's just restricted. So actually, it doesn't matter if you're non-restricted. That's not even come up. So I don't believe that that's in the scope of the consultation, to be honest. But we won't know until a call for evidence. What happens is the call for evidence categorically breaks down in very great detail exactly what they're looking at. So yeah. If that 394 roll out to July, does that mean only 1650 minus 394 are left for July? No, there's more than that. So there's 2,044 places. So 2,044 places because 394 were not given. i.e. 394 with this bunch of people under £46,000 who were rejected. So this number could be 394 exactly. It could be 400, 500, 600. That's what we don't know. So, as I said before, there is a hierarchy to who gets restricted CoSs. And again, the people who earn the least go last. You wouldn't go first. So just because you're waiting, it doesn't matter. That's why the system is quite unfair. Because you earn the least, you always go last. So this is what we'll find out on July the 13th. We'll find out what happens. We'll find out how the Home Office is going to deal with that. So we'll know much more on July the 13th. So Lilia, can I clarify about the master's degree from the UK and what does it mean the annual does not affect me? I think you'll have to... can you clarify your question? Because I'm not sure what you mean. Ty, I'm a bachelor. Do I have to submit my information? So Ty, as long as you've got your bachelor's certificate, then you should be you can apply within the UK. So I just need to clarify this. What is the difference between CoS and RCos? Difference is CoS, you have a certificate of education. Bachelor's or master's. RCos, you may have completed, but you do not have a certificate. That is the difference. You have a certificate, apply in the UK. You don't have a certificate, apply outside the UK. That's the difference. Yeah? So I've got time. I've got time for one more question, just quickly. So Lilia, I don't actually understand what you mean that annual does not affect me. Oh, okay, right, yeah, you got it. Are they considering taking into account the regional? Yes, they are. This is a new proposal that's come up. Thank you for reminding me, actually. So what's currently happening is that salaries are the same across all regions. So, for example, PwC have already told us they do not hire international students in Scotland and Northern England, at least in their legal departments. They can't afford it because £24,000 in London is okay, I suppose. £24,000 in Scotland is loads of money. It's a lot. You could rent a house for £600 a month up in Glasgow. So if this is back on the table. That's going to go under consultation about the regional salary differences. This came up 2 years ago, was rejected, now is coming up again. A lot of big business are going to be lobbying for this. If it comes through, it's good news for you guys, because currently it's quite rare for me to have clients go outside, get jobs outside of London and Birmingham, because companies can't afford to pay them, basically. So if it changes, that's good news. So Sunil, what are the next steps you are taking? So the next steps that we are taking is that, number one, we are providing you with this information. Number two, we are running the survey, which you can see here, smartsurvey.co.uk. And also we send this newsletter out to 25,000 students a week, and we try and advertise this through all avenues. What can you do? It's really very simple. You need to speak. You need to speak up. You need to raise awareness. You can either raise awareness around Career Interactive, so you could share the link for this YouTube video. You could share the link to our website. You could share the link to our registration page, because we send out newsletters twice a week. You can share this through social media. You can share it through lots of things. Tell your friends. Tell everybody about it. Send an email to MAC, send an email to us, hr@careerinteractive.org. You can register for us. We want your voices to be heard. So register for the platform, register at careerinteractive.org. Send your CV or an email to hr@careerinteractive.org. Fill out the survey, share this YouTube video. Tell people about Career Interactive, that we are here to help you, but we can't do this without you, without your help. We are passionate about international students getting the jobs and recognition that they deserve. So help yourself. Yeah? That's so important. Help us to help you. I'll just do these last two and then that's it, I'm afraid. Shia, how long does it take usually to go through? Once you've got a contract, 6 to 8 weeks. This can be expedited to less than 4 weeks. Nikhil, if your tier 4 expired, can you still apply for a CoS rather than RCos? No. If your tier 4 is expired, then you need to have another tier 4 to apply for a tier 2, basically. It's a bit mad. So you need to probably get a private education tier 4, do a CFA, ACCA, come back. If anybody of you need advice or help, please send your CV and your question to hr@careerinteractive.org. I'm afraid that's all I've got time for today. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you for all of your questions. As I said, Career Interactive, we are here to help you be heard. And we hope that you have been heard today. And we want to continue to pass on your opinion to the people that matter. So please tell your friends about us. Share the news, share the video, share about Career Interactive. And I will join you again next Thursday at the same time, 4:30, to talk about another issue close to yours and our hearts. Thank you so much. Goodbye.